we're making doll clothes with stuff that I got on clearance at Target. I'm Sandy, John's behind the camera, and this is my lady to stay. So today we're gonna take this skirt from the kids clearance rack and turn it into a dress for our Smart Doll. So I've already cut my skirt down the seam so that I have a flat piece of fabric to work with, and we're gonna make a dress for Miranda here. This particular piece I picked for a lot of reasons. This is a very easy piece to work with. For one thing, I love the print. The scale is perfect. It's small and it's a little bit more mature. It's sort of an abstract leopard or maybe floral print. It's a subdued color. It's not too childish. So it's gonna make a really nice sort of cottagecore, boho style sundress for Miranda here. So the first thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you a little bit about what I was thinking to make. And that's going to be a long sundress. And you'll see as I put it on Miranda exactly how well it works. The smocking of this piece creates a perfect bodice. It's gonna stretch over her curves very nicely, and all I have to do is figure out what size I want at the waistline. The smocking is gonna stop right about at her hip, and then it's going to flow out to accommodate her hip, which is a little bit larger. So in this particular case, the only measurement I actually need is her waistline. But I'm gonna do that actually by hand in this case. I'm gonna take this edge that I previously cut, and I'm gonna line it up with the center of her back. And then I'm gonna give myself just maybe 1/4 of an inch of an overlap. So we're gonna go past the center of her back by about 1/4 of an inch. We're gonna let it stretch just a little bit because we want it to conform to her curves and not have a lot of bagging in the middle. Then I'm taking my larger side and I'm gonna bring that over until it just about meets the other piece and overlaps with it at that 1/4 inch. And then I'm gonna stick a pin in there. And we really don't have to be absolutely perfect with this. This is gonna be a very simple dress. So I'm sticking a pin in just to mark my place to get approximately where I'm gonna cut. And then I'm gonna take it off of her. Thank you, Miranda. So now let's take a closer look as I get ready to cut this. And you can see where my pin is that I had decided on when I draped on Miranda. Now we don't want to cut straight down because that's going to give us one side that's a little bit less full than the other. We want to follow the actual way that the skirt was built, which is with this a little bit more straight and then this angles out. We're gonna line up this edge with my pin, and I want to get it as flat as I can, and you can see that the edge of my skirt is actually flaring out just a little bit, and that's where we're going to cut. Just keeping it lined up. If you have pins and it would help you to get it lined up and pin it, you can do that. I'm just gonna go ahead and go crazy and cut it. Cut right to the inside of my pin and straight up, and you can see already that I have the shape of a sundress. So now all we're gonna do is we're gonna turn it inside out, line it back up again. We're going to sew a seam that allows us about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and it's going to run from the top all the way to the bottom, just staying along that edge and trying to keep it at about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And in this case, if you go off just a little bit, it really doesn't matter. So we're gonna take this over to the sewing machine. But before we do, if you're enjoying this kind of content, please give this video a big thumbs up. I have a lot of ideas and I got a lot of things at Target and I'd love to share them with you, but we'll talk about that more at the end of the video. So my machine has a 1/4 inch foot. It's for doing straight stitches, and it automatically, if I line it up, creates a 1/4 inch seam. So I didn't worry about doing all of my pinning. I'm just going to hold it in place as I sew carefully. But the one place I did pin was right here, and I wanted to put a pin on either side of where my waistline is, because there's 2 seams there, and as you're sewing, you might actually cause those 2 seams to shift, and it's not going to look as nice in the back. So I've got these 2 pins here, and I'm holding my seam in place, and I'm just going to remove them as I get up to them. Never sew over pins. Sometimes I have to add a piece of stabilizer or tissue over my feed dogs and underneath my dress, because as the material passes through, as the elastic of this passes through, it can tend to get bogged down and the presser foot doesn't want to pass it through. So I'm just eliminating that by putting this piece of stabilizer down, and I'll tear it off later.
Would a walking foot help at this point?
A walking foot can help, but I'm using a 1/4-inch foot that was already on my machine. Sometimes even with a walking foot, you still need to put something underneath. Stopping at my pins, pull them out. And we are all finished. So I'm going to take the bulk out of this little seam that I made. You can see it's just a little bit thicker right here. What I'm doing is I'm using my applique scissors. You can do this with regular scissors. I've just kind of gotten used to using applique scissors for this because sometimes you want to lift one side of the seam and not the other. But what I'm going to do right now is just cut that extra bulk away, getting fairly close to my seam line. And you could do that all the way down, just cutting off that extra edge. You don't want to get too close, you want to leave some seam allowance, but you can just cut it all the way down, or you can put it on a machine and zigzag it. Okay, so here we have Miranda in her finished dress. I actually took the time to add a small bit of eyelet to mine, but it was perfectly fine without. I just wanted to give it a little something that sort of looks like a petticoat. This is I believe a 12-inch doily, and it is one of my favorite things in our Smart Doll wardrobe. I fold it in half, and I use it as a shawl to just add that little bit of extra something. And you can see I'm going to turn her around. Got that beautiful look in the back with the knit shawl. She looks perfect. You would never know that I made this out of a skirt that I paid under $5 for. And it just makes a fabulous Smart Doll dress. I think she looks great. And I have a lot more ideas. So what I'd like to do now is show you a few things that I have in mind and let you decide in the comments what you would like our next doll clothing hacks video to be. This will be piece 1. This is a size extra small 4-5 dress. I paid $3.60 for it. It's made of a nice jersey material, and it's got some beautiful ruffles on it, which is what drew me to it. Let me know in the comments if you like piece number 1. Piece number 2 is this holiday sweater. This one is just a nice knit with lots of sparkle in it, and it's got a lot of ruffles that I can play with and sort of a balloon sleeve with a gathered wrist. So there's a lot of really interesting things here. It's also got a rib hem. So the last piece, piece number 3, is this dress. Now I can make a lot of things out of this dress. This is a size 10-12.
That's a lot of fabric, Sandy.
It is a lot of fabric. There is a lot here and a lot of possibilities. We've got a very long full skirt. It's stretchy, it's sparkly, it's got a really cute button in the back, and it's got some really nice ruffles on it. And you tell me which piece you want, 1, 2, or 3 in the comments. If you want to learn more about sewing for dolls, click here to make my disdain tee out of materials you have at home. And that's it for us. Take care, folks. Bye.
Bye.